And away we go. Episode 1254 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Thursday, February 5th, 2026. It is the day after what was, for all intents and purposes, the end of the Washington Post sports department. Washington Post executive editor Matt Murray, he on Wednesday morning said that the Post is closing its sports department, quote, in its current form, end quote. Did also say that the Post plans to retain several reporters to join features and cover sports as a, quote, cultural and societal phenomenon, end quote, whatever that means. And the Post will have a few employees for a print sports section, but R.I.P. the Washington Post sports department. So much great work over the years. So many great writers over the years. I on radio and on this podcast have had so many Washington Post writers, past and present, on as guests. You know, the Washington Post has a lot of problems. It is a legacy media outlet that is dying. It, over the last few years, reportedly has lost hundreds of millions of dollars. The sports section, in my opinion, has lost its way in getting away from local sports. Readership of the Post in general has plummeted in recent years. Trust in the Post in terms of its political reporting and political commentary has plummeted in recent years. There are many reasons for that. That's a conversation for another podcast. But bottom line, the Washington Post is a shell of what it was. And so I actually think that for many of the talented sports writers who have been laid off, they may be better off. Talent is talent. Those who can do. Old media is dying, new media is rising, and I do think that so many of those being laid off can and will thrive. But all the best to them. I certainly do not like seeing people lose their jobs. Hello and welcome to this Thursday installment of the Al Galdi podcast, which, as far as I know, isn't going anywhere. New episode each weekday, Monday through Friday, with each episode out by 5 a.m. Eastern and often much earlier. This is the podcast that follows Washington, D.C. area sports so that you don't have to. This is a podcast in which I discuss the Washington Commanders on every episode, no matter the time of year. And next segment, in-depth conversation on Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels, as I'll speak with Pro Football Focus NFL analyst and former University of Kansas safety John Kosko. John is really good at talking quarterbacks. He'll explain why he still ranks Daniels as a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, how much stock we should put in Daniels' injury-ravaged 2025 season, the areas in which Daniels most needs to improve, why the Commanders, with their number 7 overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, should take Ohio State safety Caleb Downs, and more. Also on the show, our Washington Wizards.
The damn Washington Wizards!
Thank you, our good friend, ESPN Stephen A. Smith. The 2026 NBA trade deadline is on Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, but our rebuilding and tanking Wizards already have made a major trade in the lead up to this deadline. Coming up later in the show, analysis of a reported mega deal by the Wizards, who are getting Anthony Davis from the Dallas Mavericks. There is a lot to this trade, but this trade to me is another sign that the Wizards front office, led by Monumental Basketball president Michael Winger and general manager Will Dawkins, is forward-thinking and aggressive and is exactly the kind of front office that the Wizards needed for years. And on the show, we'll talk college basketball. We on Wednesday night had 3 Georges in action: Georgetown, George Mason, and George Washington. Only Georgetown won, but the Hoyas are doing well right now. They won their 4th consecutive game since a 6-game losing streak, a 76-68 win over Creighton at Capital One Arena. Before we get to feedback, some Commanders coaching staff news. Reports on Wednesday night that the team is hiring Eric Henderson as defensive line coach and defensive run game coordinator, and is demoting defensive line coach Daryl Tapp to assistant defensive line coach. Henderson spent the 2024 and 2025 seasons as USC's co-defensive coordinator / defensive run game coordinator / defensive line coach. He was the Los Angeles Rams defensive line coach / defensive run game coordinator for the 2021 through 2023 seasons. He was the Rams defensive line coach for the 2019 and 2020 seasons. Also, we on Wednesday evening had reports that the Commanders reported new quarterbacks coach DJ Williams interviewed for the Arizona Cardinals offensive coordinator job, but that job is going to Nathaniel Hackett. And former Commanders defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. has a new job. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they on Wednesday evening announced having hired Witt as assistant head coach / secondary coach. The Steelers on Monday afternoon announced the hiring of Jason Simmons as defensive pass game coordinator / defensive backs coach. He spent the last 2 seasons as the Commanders defensive pass game coordinator. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You could email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Email from Dave in Israel off our conversation on last Thursday's show, episode 1249, with Commanders analyst Mark Bullock of Bullock's Film Room on Substack on what to expect from Durante Jones as Commanders defensive coordinator, including the potential return to a 3-4 base defense. Writes Dave, Al, I've been thinking about the interior of the defensive line in light of the fact that we are likely moving to a 3-4 defense next season. My question for you is why, given this, that we need Daron Payne? First off, he's not the prototypical space-eating nose tackle that a 3-4 usually requires. Secondly, in the 3-4, we only need 1, not 2, interior linemen. To me, it seems that with Kinlaw, who is a big guy, along with Eddie Goldman, who is definitely a space eater, we have enough there. Newton seems like a wild card, as he is not a big guy and doesn't really fit the scheme, but he's a depth piece. Wouldn't we, at this point, be better served to recoup the Payne money and spend it on free agent linebackers, edge rushers, or even go big on a wide receiver? In any case, we'd likely be paying more for Payne than he could get on the open market, so it seems from both a value standpoint as well as a need standpoint, this is not a good deal for us. Your thoughts? Thank you for the email, Dave. The number one argument for the Commanders trading or releasing Daron Payne this offseason is that the money being spent on him can be spent in a better way. And this is why I would have zero problem with the team parting with Payne. But regarding the defensive scheme of Durante Jones, the reason to part with Payne should not be moving to a 3-4 base defense because most, if not all, NFL teams are so infrequently in their base defenses. Most, if not all, NFL teams are in their base defenses like 25 to 35% of the time. That's it. Nickel is the new base, and honestly, that's not even new anymore. The whole 3-4 versus 4-3 thing has been overrated for years. And so if the Commanders go back to a 3-4 base defense, understand that that's almost certainly only impacting around a third of the team's defensive snaps. I have no problem with the Commanders moving on from Daron Payne. He, for the 2026 season, has a salary cap hit of $27.95 million per overthecap.com. He has an average annual value and AAV of $22.5 million, ranking tied for number 10 among all interior defensive linemen in the NFL per overthecap.com. He is not living up to that contract, but if the Commanders feel like Daron Payne under Durante Jones, Daron under Durante will be a very good player, then keeping Payne for the 2026 season, what would be a contract season, and we know how Payne can be in contract seasons, might make sense given that the team has a lot of salary cap space and the cap is soaring. We this past Friday afternoon had reports that the NFL on Friday informed teams that the league is projecting a salary cap for the 2026-2027 league year in the range of $301.2 million to $305.7 million per club. Yet another massive jump in the cap. The cap for the 2025-2026 league year was $279.2 million per club. But the Commanders potentially going back to a 3-4 base defense, Payne not being a classic space-eating nose tackle, I would not get too caught up in that stuff. And with a 3-4 base defense, the 3 represents 3 interior defensive linemen. The 4 represents 2 edge defenders and 2 inside linebackers. So that's what 3-4 is. The 3 is not 1 interior defensive lineman with an edge defender on each side. The 3 represents 3 interior defensive linemen, 3 defensive tackles, and then the 4 is comprised of 2 edge defenders sandwiched around 2 inside linebackers. Email from Stanley Evans on Commanders General Manager Adam Peters. Writes Stanley, "What's up, Al? AP usually comes off upbeat and smiling at press conferences, but he at the end of season press conference looked worn down and genuinely disappointed, and you could tell This season really got to him. I want both him and DQ to succeed, and I know neither of them expected or wanted this kind of season, but at the same time, the fan base needs honesty. We can handle a rebuild, and we are fine with patience if the rebuild is real. Just don't fall into the Bruce Allen routine of saying we're close when we're clearly not. There's a lot of talent on this roster that needs to be upgraded. Guys like Sainristil and Luvu looked unplayable at times, and this isn't going to be a one-year fix. I'm actually okay with that. Just don't lie to us and sell win now when the tape says otherwise. Give us transparency, a real plan, and something concrete to look forward to, and fans will stay bought in. Just my 2 cents. Have a great offseason, my guy. I think we're all happy this season is over. LOL. Thank you for the email, Stanley. Yes, we all are happy that the Commanders' hideous 2025 season is over. So the Commanders, from a team-building perspective, from a head of football operations perspective, are in such an interesting spot because, on the one hand, yeah, they need to rebuild a roster that is old and slow and not very good. But on the other hand, the roster that the Commanders need to rebuild actually includes arguably the 3 most important needs having been filled. A quality QB1 in Jayden Daniels, a quality WR1 in Terry McLaurin, and a quality LT1 in Laramie Tunsil. Daniels is on a rookie contract. McLaurin and Tunsil are on big money contracts, and the expectation is that the team this offseason will sign Tunsil to a big money contract extension. Now, yes, we can debate where we are at with McLaurin off his injury-plagued 2025 season and with next season being his age 31 season. So if you want to remove him from that list, fine. But this past season was good when he played. He can still play, and he's just 1 season removed from a terrific 2024 season. But how often is an NFL team rebuilding while already having a quality QB1, a quality WR1, and a quality LT1? And so what Adam Peters, I believe, is trying to do and should do is win now while rebuilding. And that is very hard to do, but it's not impossible. I do want Adam Peters to add to the team's diminished inventory of draft capital. I don't want him trading more picks for veteran players. I do want him to get the roster to be younger and faster, but I don't think that doing those things precludes the team from winning now, especially if Daniels, McLaurin, and Tunsil are healthy and playing as they should. Remember, the NFL is unlike MLB, the NBA, and the NHL, and that the NFL regular season is a small sample size, just 17 games. You don't have to be great to do great. See the 2024 Commanders. And so an NFL team can walk the tightrope of contending while rebuilding. Not easy, but not impossible. The Commanders in the 2024 season contended while rebuilding, and they hopefully will do that in the 2026 season. And yes, as then Redskins team president Bruce Allen famously said in January 2019, 7 years ago, we're close.
It means you're close.
Thank you, Bruce. We're close. Hey, enjoy the big game this Sunday evening with no worries. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It is a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Well, Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink produces an enzyme to break down this byproduct. Make Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best the next day. Enjoy drinks with friends. Enjoy drinks while watching the big game, and don't sacrifice your productivity for the next day. Start your night with Z-Biotics pre-alcohol and wake up ready to show up strong at work, clear-headed, focused, and back to business. Go to zbiotics.com/Galdi and you'll get 15% off your first order when you use the promo code Galdi at checkout. Plus, Z-Biotics pre-alcohol is backed by a 100% money-back guarantee, so there's no risk. Also, subscriptions are available for maximum consistency. That's zbiotics.com/Galdi. Use the promo code Galdi at checkout for 15% off. Hey, for all of you parents out there with teenagers, we know that you're already trying to keep a million different things under control. Well, Cash App is here to help make sure that your teen's money and spending aren't adding to the craziness. Cash App is designed to meet teens aged 13 to 17 where they are with intuitive and educational tools. Available through sponsorship by an eligible parent or guardian, teens gain access to a personalized Cash App card that comes in different colors and patterns to fit the teen style, and the ability to instantly access money from family and friends. Cash App makes managing money feel easier and honestly just cooler than other options out there. Cash App also has tools that can help teens develop real-world financial habits in a space that's safe and easy to navigate, all with your oversight and approval. If your teen is getting a first job, Cash App can get your teen access to paychecks up to 2 days early and can help achieve personalized savings goals, all within the app. With Cash App, these tools become something your teen will actually want to use because they were designed with your teen in mind. Also, no one wants unnecessary surprises. Well, with Cash App, there are no monthly fees, no minimum balance requirements, and no hidden charges when sending or receiving money. With the Cash App card, you and your teen's balances receive 24/7 fraud monitoring, and if something ever feels off, you have the ability to lock the card right from your phone in just one tap. Skip the stress and give your teen a way to learn financial responsibility with no hidden fees. Download Cash App and get started today, and for a limited time, a new Cash App customer can earn $10. Just use the code FAMILY10 in your profile at sign-up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partner or partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Direct deposit and promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. Hey, please consider subscribing to the podcast if you're not already doing that. Subscribing to the podcast costs nothing. Make sure that you never miss an episode and helps out the podcast a lot. And if you're already subscribing, thank you. It is a pleasure to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast Pro Football Focus NFL analyst John Kosko, who had a PFF.com piece that came out on January 28th, ranked each of the 32 NFL teams by its level of quarterback need entering the 2026 offseason. Headline quote, ranking every NFL team's quarterback need entering the 2026 offseason, end quote. The Washington Commanders are number 16, right in the middle of the NFL. They fall under the category of, quote, excited for the future, end quote. Wrote John about the Commanders' QB1, Jayden Daniels. Quote, the Commanders took a big step back in 2025 after building a veteran-heavy roster around Jayden Daniels, only for injuries to derail his season. Regression was expected after Daniels' rookie season, as defensive coordinators had an offseason to study his tape and take away what he did well. He protected the ball at a historically good rate and delivered supreme accuracy, but he doubled his turnover-worthy play rate in year two and struggled to find the same success as the year prior. Regardless, if Daniels can stay healthy, he looks to be one of the bright stars and future faces of the NFL, end quote. John Kosko played big-time college football. He was a safety for the University of Kansas for the 2004 through 2006 seasons. You can follow him on X at John Kosko3, and Kosko is spelled Kosko. Hey, John, how are you?
I'm doing great, Al. It's great to be back on the program with you.
Yeah, good to talk to you. Ranking each NFL team by its level of quarterback need entering the 2026 offseason. Explain what you did here, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so basically kind of like looking at each team and like where they're at and their evolution with the quarterback position and stuff like that, and basically try to tier those into buckets. This wasn't necessarily like ranking them for the like in terms of like where they stack up individually against other players. I wasn't looking at it from that perspective. When I put like, you know, Jayden Daniels and the Washington Commanders in the excited for the future like tier bucket, like I think, you know, you saw what he did last year as a, you know, he was phenomenal as a rookie. Obviously things didn't go well this year, but I think what he's shown so far in the NFL, like you should be very excited for this future. and I wouldn't say that like he's the 16th best quarterback in the NFL. Like that's not where I was thinking about that. Actually, the way I ranked them was like in each tier, like where their draft position was for the team. So like of the teams that are excited for the future, they have the highest draft pick. That was in that tier. I'd actually put him above Trevor Lawrence as a quarterback. I'd put him above Caleb Williams. I'd put him above Bo Nix. And so like, that's like, in terms of like my personal ranking of a player, that's how I rank them in each tier. Essentially, it's like, hey, this is this tier. Let's rank them like based off of that. So I think for that was like my methodology in terms of like how they stacked up. And then like, the next tier I have in this article was like things to like, which had the Cowboys and the Packers, the Chargers, Eagles, and 49ers. And, I would still argue that he's better than some of those quarterbacks in there. So I just think the each like category is its own category, and it's nothing to like, hey, this is where I think he's as a quarterback going into the, for the future or something like that.
Well, we last spoke this past May off you in a PFF.com piece, having ranked all 32 NFL QB1s. Headline quote, PFF quarterback rankings, all 32 starters ahead of the 2025 NFL season, end quote. Jayden Daniels came in at number 6. Where would you rank him now among NFL QB1s?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that article again. I mean, I think I'm gonna do that article again. That's still probably like up for the content team or however the editors want to do that. So like, I think he would still be a top 10 quarterback. I think what we've seen for the first 2 years in his career, the fact that he was a second overall pick and all that, I still think like, assuming he's healthy, and he's going to obviously have a new offensive coordinator and they're going to build a team around him again this year. I think I would put him, in that second tier range of quarterbacks still. I think there's always going to be regression that you see from quarterbacks if they start hot in their career. Like he had one of the all-time greatest rookie seasons we've ever seen. Like I don't think that happens by accident or fluke. There's a lot of things to build off of from that. And I think this year injuries took place. And he just really never could get into a rhythm. I don't think he played more than 3 straight games, like full games this year. So like there's part of it that is as well. And so like there's just a lot of bad things that kind of like happened that were outside of his control that I wouldn't ding him too harshly on, unless we start seeing, he's injury prone and like he continues to struggle with, maybe pressure and accuracy or something like that. But I think he was so good as a rookie. And he still showed those flashes this past year that I would still rank him as a top 10 quarterback. Maybe not 6th, like maybe he drops a couple spots, so like 8th to 10th or something like that. But I still think he's solidly in that top 10 tier.
Jayden Daniels in the 2025 regular season played in just 7 of the Commanders' 17 games. He got injured in 4 of the 7 games. The rest of the team got ravaged by injury. How much stock do you put in Daniels' 2025 season, given how little of a season it was and how distorted of a season it was?
Yeah, it's, I think he had like 260 some passes or dropbacks or whatever. You still weight it, right? Like it's still a sample size of plays of like, hey, defensive coordinators had an entire offseason to kind of study, hey, what is it that he struggles with and how can we get him into those positions to struggle? And with all the things that happen there, teams are going to, those negatives are going to prop up a lot more. And I look at it also like you think of like Russell Wilson as a rookie. He was again one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen, in the NFL history. His second year, he struggled the first 9 weeks of the year and then caught fire, like really kind of figured out, hey, adjusted to what defenses are doing, got into a rhythm, and I believe they won the Super Bowl in his second year. Like maybe that doesn't happen for the Commanders, but quarterbacks need to find like, hey, what is it that defenses are doing to try to take away what I do well, and how can I adjust? And he just never was able to really do that. So like what I look at this year is like, hey, there are weaknesses in his game, right? And I still think that even with like the weaknesses, like he still had an okay season. It wasn't like bad by any means. It was still like I'd say above average in terms of like a grading. Efficiency was down, grading was down, but like it wasn't like where you go like, oh, this looks bad. I don't think this guy's going to make it in the NFL, right? So, you still weight it, and I think you play it like, hey, this guy has weaknesses. Can he overcome these weaknesses? And then you look for that in 2026, where all right, new offensive coordinator is going to see, hey, this is what defenses were doing to take away what you did well. How can we counter that? Coach them up to be able to handle that type of stuff, and then hopefully you see the evolution of a quarterback where he's obviously ultra athletic, very talented, and we saw like he can be an elite level type of quarterback with the right pieces, right coaching, and right circumstances.
What are the areas in which Jayden Daniels most needs to improve?
Yeah, I think it's the tendency to scramble and to bail out of like when the read isn't there, and maybe going through his reads and letting that play develop a little bit longer, trusting protection when it is there, because what he does do when he's really really good, he's a rhythm passer, right? So he's gonna get into a rhythm, and he's gonna just get into the flow of the game and find and figure out how the defense is attacking him. When he's not playing well, it's basically when there's a lot of pressure, and he can put himself into that bad pressure. And then when he's trying to like fade away from throws, and he has bad accuracy of that, and those are the bad habits that you see. So he as the athlete that he is, he's going to use his legs, and he's just got to use those legs smartly. And I think what we saw from the weaknesses were like when the play he was too quick to like bail out of a play when it was starting to break down, rather than trusting, hey, this throw is here, or this read is here. Let me put this ball where it needs to go. Versus, hey, I'm gonna try to extend this play with my legs. And they know that he likes to roll right. So like when he starts to break right, there's somebody there already crashing the flat, or where he's rolling to, and then he gets into more trouble that way. So the best quarterbacks, no matter even you just doesn't matter how athletic you are, you've got to be able to win from the pocket. So like I think if he steps into those throws, trust that the protection is gonna be there, and make those and not fall away from those throws, that's where he will be I think successful.
We're talking with Pro Football Focus NFL analyst John Kosko. Getting away from Jayden Daniels, which quarterbacks were most difficult for you to assess for this PFF.com piece?
Yeah, the Lions were the most difficult one for me, because I think like Jared Goff is a good quarterback, and like I could have put him in like into the things to like category, but like he's also like not good enough in my opinion to elevate the team, right? Like I think he provides a really strong, good floor for a team like the Lions, but he's also like prone, like that offense and what he does is all 100% timing based, and if something that is disrupted in that, like he becomes really bad. Like just any pressure, he's really bad. So it's like how do I categorize a guy that like obviously has operated one of the most efficient and best offenses in the NFL for the last 3 years, but I still don't really trust him in the biggest moments type of stuff. You can say that a lot about a lot of quarterbacks where you don't trust them in big moments and or whatever. But like, Goff was difficult for me to kind of place there. Another teams would be like the Dolphins. They're difficult in terms of like they got like $99 million dead cap if they were to move on from Tua. I think that goes down if you have a post June 1st cut or something like that. But like those types of teams where they have these massive contracts where they want to move off of their quarterback and they obviously want to upgrade there. It's like, what do you do with that? So those ones are difficult there as well. But like, I think the Lions one was for me, probably the most difficult to kind of pinpoint, hey, where are they at in their evolution with Goff? He's, I think 31, 32 years old. He plays well, but it's just like, is it good enough to get them over the top? And I don't think so.
You played safety for a power conference program in Kansas. A lot of talk about the Commanders with their number 7 overall pick in the 2026 NFL draft, possibly taking Ohio State safety Caleb Downs. Is he worthy of being taken by the team at 7?
Absolutely. I think he's easily a top 10 player in this draft. Like we were saying before we started the podcast, like I haven't done a full deep dive on the guy, but I've seen him for the past 2 years, obviously playing for Ohio State and, winning a national championship last year and, obviously on one of the best teams in the nation this year. He's a phenomenal player. Like he is very good coming downhill. He's very physical, very generally a very good tackler. He doesn't miss a lot in open space, and is very instinctual. So he's going to get, he's going to read it out, and then he's good in coverage too. So he can break up passes. He can be sticky on tight ends and big slots and stuff like that. So this is a guy that I think can do everything that you need him to do at the NFL level. He's fast. He's got the range. So if you want to play him deep, you can play him deep. He's doesn't have the size of like a Kyle Williams by any means, but like I think he's a better athlete than Kyle Williams and can even be, has that positional versatility that not Kyle Williams, Kyle Hamilton. I'm sorry. I don't even know why I said Williams, but yeah, Kyle Hamilton. So like he's I think he's kind of like fits that type of a mold of a safety, and can be that type of a player for, whatever team drafts him. If it's the Commanders at 7, I think they'd be getting a stud of a defensive player, because I think he's, like, in my opinion, he's probably a top 5 player in this draft, if not a top 3. Like he's that good, just based on what I've looked at so far. I'll have to, obviously once I go and do a full draft evaluation on all these guys, but I can't see him being outside the top 5 based on what I've seen.
You're like the perfect person to answer this next question, because you played safety at a high level and yet also work for Pro Football Focus. How much should the perceived lesser positional value of safety impact whether the Commanders take Caleb Downs at 7?
Yeah, I mean, there's like the surplus value like charts that are out there in terms of like you shouldn't be taking a safety at that, because you can get like really good quality safeties for cheap and at free agency, and you don't pay them the contracts that you do. So like spending high capital on them for the draft is generally like a losing proposition. But if you're getting a guy, like if you were to get a Kyle Hamilton, if you were to get, Troy Polamalu, Ed Reed at that safety position, like if you're actually getting that, like that's more than worth it. Like he transforms your defense because he's able to shut down essentially the middle of the field, in the run game and the pass game. It's just like the same thing with like linebackers. Generally, you're not going to want to take linebackers high, right? But if you were telling me, hey, this guy is 100% going to be Fred Warner, or this guy is going to 100% be Luke Kuechly or Ray Lewis or whatever linebacker, Hall of Fame caliber linebacker you want to put in there, you would absolutely take him that high because he transforms your defense, right? So same thing with like defensive tackle. It's another position that like generally you're not taking that high, but like if you're going to tell me this is, Aaron Donald's going to be a multi-time defensive player of the year, like he's going to be an absolute, like you have to triple team this guy every single play. Like you take that, right? Like, again, that's what you're, if you project this guy to be that, right. Maybe it's, an all-time great, like in my opinion, Aaron Donald's the best defensive tackle of all time. Right. But like, you don't know if you're going to be getting that, but that's what you're kind of shooting for with that. It becomes very worth it. Right. So like, yes, positional value, like, does matter to me. So like it's better, like in general, like, hey, you're going to be taking quarterbacks here, you're going to take offensive tackles here, you're going to take edge defenders here, and then the next group are like wide receivers, cornerbacks, and defensive tackles and safeties or whatever. But like if it's a guy like, if you're getting Barry Sanders, if you're getting Jim Brown, like, I mean, like you're taking that guy. I don't know, like you just, if this is what that guy is going to be. Again, you can never know, right? Like the draft is a crapshoot in general, but like, I mean, that's kind of what you're going for. And if a guy can be a transformational type of player, which, Kyle Hamilton has been that for the Ravens. I think, Caleb Downs can be that, and I think he becomes worth it, right? So yeah, that's my thought on it. So
makes sense. I mean, being elite can trump positional value. Pro Football Focus NFL analyst John Kosko. John, thanks. All the best.
Yeah, thank you so much, Al.
All right. Hey, if you are planning a wedding or you know someone who is, check out or have that person check out cateringbyuptown.com. Catering by Uptown delivers not just delicious food of the highest quality, but also a flawless and memorable experience tailored to your special day. Catering by Uptown's team is dedicated to meeting your every need with elegance and precision. If you visit cateringbyuptown.com and click on venues, you can set up your own personal tour of one of Catering by Uptown's premier venues, including outstanding waterfront venues. Also, Catering by Uptown is great for parties, so whether a birthday, an anniversary, a retirement, or a charity gala, Catering by Uptown understands that special events deserve to be celebrated in style. Catering by Uptown takes care of every detail so that you can enjoy your event. Catering by Uptown is a family business. It is run by the Pereiras, so they are great Commanders fans and loyal supporters of this podcast. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. That's cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. When it comes to what the Washington Wizards have been doing under Monumental Basketball president Michael Winger and general manager Will Dawkins, I have said that there is zero guarantee that what they are doing will work, but that I fully endorse what they are doing. I love the process. I love the thinking. This multi-season run of the Wizards as a rebuilding and tanking team has been painful, but we are seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. And Wednesday, the day before Thursday's 2026 NBA trade deadline at 3 p.m. Eastern, was a big day for our team. We on Wednesday afternoon had reports that the Wizards are acquiring one of the biggest stars in the NBA, Anthony Davis, from the Dallas Mavericks. The trade, the Wizards are trading Chris Middleton, Marvin Bagley III, A.J. Johnson, Malachi Branham, 2 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks to the Mavericks for Anthony Davis, D'Angelo Russell, Jaden Hardy, and Dante Exum. Now, on first glance, the reaction as a Wizards fan is 2 first-round picks? I certainly had that reaction, but once you find out more about the picks and the trade, the reaction as a Wizards fan is masterclass by Michael Winger and Will Dawkins. At least that was my reaction. The 2 first-round picks that the Wizards are trading in this deal are, shall we say, weak first-round picks, are basically fake first-round picks. The first-round picks are in the 2026 and 2030 NBA drafts, but the first-round pick in the 2026 NBA draft is via the mighty Oklahoma City Thunder. So that's going to be a super late first-round pick. And the first-round pick in the 2030 NBA draft is via the Golden State Warriors and is top 20 protected. These are not 2 top 10 picks that the Wizards are trading. How about this from CBS NBA reporter Sam Quinn on Wednesday afternoon in a post on X, quote, "These are the fakest first-round picks ever traded for a player of this caliber. One of them is probably going to be number 30, and the other is top 20 protected. This is flat out, we wanted to say we got 2 firsts for AD nonsense," end quote. Here's something else that I really like about this trade from a Wizards perspective. Each of the 5 picks being dealt by the Wizards in this trade was not originally a pick of the Wizards. The first-round pick in the 2026 NBA draft is via the Oklahoma City Thunder. The first-round pick in the 2030 NBA draft is via the Golden State Warriors and is top 20 protected. And the 3 second-round picks are in the 2026, 2027, and 2029 NBA drafts. The second-round pick in the 2026 NBA draft is via the Phoenix Suns. The second-round pick in the 2027 NBA draft is via the Chicago Bulls. And the second-round pick in the 2029 NBA draft is via the Houston Rockets. This trade is a function of the Wizards' years of asset accumulation under Michael Winger and Will Dawkins in this rebuild. And, oh, by the way, the Wizards are getting back a package led by a guy and Anthony Davis, who still can play at an elite level. Now, there are reasons that Anthony Davis was available, okay? A, Davis is an aging player. This season is his age 32 season. B, Davis is an expensive player. Davis is coming to the Wizards with multiple seasons left on a max contract extension that he signed with the Los Angeles Lakers in August 2023. Your remaining Anthony Davis salaries per Hoops Hype this season, $54.126 million. Next season, $58.457 million. In the 2027-2028 season, a player option for $62.787 million. And C, Davis is like never healthy, okay? I mean, this guy is constantly injured. He's currently injured. He, like another major trade acquisition by the Wizards this season, Trae Young, may not play at all for the Wizards this season. But, of course, that's a good thing for the tank because the Wizards' first-round pick in the perceived to be loaded 2026 NBA draft reportedly is only top 8 protected. The Wizards had a ton of salary cap space for next season, so much of that space now is being eaten up by Trae Young and Anthony Davis, and it is possible that neither guy ends up being good for the Wizards, okay? Like, that possibility is real, but each guy still can play at a high level. And when you add these guys to the Wizards' core of promising young players, and we on this podcast in recent weeks have been talking so much about this core of promising young players. Bilal Coulibaly, Alex Sarr, Keyshawn George, Bub Carrington, Trey Johnson. You can see the makings of a team that next season busts out of the tank. The vision is becoming clear. The light at the end of the tunnel is becoming visible. Here was ESPN NBA insider Shams Charania with anchor Hannah Storm on ESPN SportsCenter on Wednesday afternoon.
Hannah, this is a trade deadline week stunner. Anthony Davis, the 10-time NBA All-Star, has been traded to the Washington Wizards. So the Wizards are acquiring a future Hall of Fame big man. The Mavericks are getting back some players, a couple of young players, but 2 first-round draft picks and 3 second-round picks. But let's look at AD going to the Wizards now. He joins Trae Young, who they just acquired, the multi-time All-Star, formerly the face of the franchise of the Hawks. But Alex Sarr, Keyshawn George, Trey Johnson, Bilal Coulibaly, Bub Carrington, they've been building the last few years, but clearly the deconstruction phase in Washington is over. They're turning the page after this season on being competitive around that young core that they developed, and now they have 2 anchors of that in Trae Young and Anthony Davis. You think about the pick-and-roll presence that AD and Trae Young will have together, and defensively, Alex Sarr and AD manning the middle. But clearly for the Mavericks, 1 year ago, they traded away Luka Doncic, the face of that franchise. No one ever thought he'd be traded. There was going to be a statue of him one day, but he got traded for AD. It just did not work out, a slew of injuries. But the Mavericks, by making this trade, they've essentially cut their losses here. They've cut ties here, and they're bringing in significant financial relief. They're getting out of the aprons. They're getting out of the tax. They're getting some draft flexibility that now all combines to allow them to properly build this team around Cooper Flagg. He's the face of this franchise, the face of this organization moving forward, and that's what they intend to do. And one more note, Hannah, on the Wizards. They made a few trades here. Bradley Beal and Kyle Kuzma the last few years. That has now turned into Trae Young, Anthony Davis, and 5 pick swaps.
Yes, translation, masterclass by Michael Winger and Will Dawkins. I'm being over the top. I'm having some fun in calling this a masterclass, but you get the idea. I like what Michael Winger and Will Dawkins are doing. You know, this is an oversimplification, but the Wizards essentially have turned Bradley Beal and Kyle Kuzma into Trae Young and Anthony Davis. Think about that. Even with Young and Davis as diminished assets, which pair would you prefer, Beal and Kuzma or Young and Davis? You know, you take a step back. The Wizards, off years of whiffing on first-round picks and making bad trades and giving out max contracts that don't work out and gifting Bradley Beal a ridiculous no-trade clause. Now, are playing 4D chess with asset accumulation. I mean, you think about Trae Young and Anthony Davis, and whatever you think about them right now, the Wizards bought low and gave up little for Trae Young and Anthony Davis. These trade acquisitions, in a lot of ways, are low-risk, high-upside moves. Still no guarantee that any of this will work in terms of sustained success for our Wizards. That is true. But I love the process. I love what Michael Winger and Will Dawkins are doing. Here were ESPN NBA insider Brian Windhorst and ESPN NBA front office insider Bobby Marks on ESPN's NBA Today on Wednesday afternoon.
Basically, this was a salary dump, and Washington just couldn't say no to this. And so Washington is just doing something that is hard to do. They're going to be in a tank, and so I expect Anthony Davis to barely play at all this year, like Trae Young is going to play. And then as soon as
Trae Young's going to play at all this year,
they cannot, because their pick is top 8 protected. And as soon as they get that pick top 8 protected, they're going to flip the car around and say, okay, here we go. Let's go next year. We're going to go. Here comes Trae Young. Here comes Anthony Davis. They're going to be magically healthy, and they're going to have a nice high draft pick, and they're going to be ready to go.
A has been unlocked.
So this is sort of ideal for Washington, and this is kind of what Utah did yesterday. They're going to try to do the same flip as well. They're going to continue tanking and do the flip. That's ideally what you do, and that's what this trade deadline has been about.
It's a bold strategy. I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've never seen a team go out and trade for two all-stars who are injured to keep their own pick this year, and then basically flip that rebuild to next year and hit the ground running. Can you imagine a healthy Anthony Davis and Trae Young, and then getting a top 5 pick with already Alex Sarr and Bilal Coulibaly and Trey Johnson here?
I enjoyed how Brian Windhorst described that, from the tank to the flip. Well, what the Wizards are doing, hopefully, will deliver long-term success. Short-term thinking does not deliver long-term results. Good process does. Science does, especially when it comes to skincare. And the best product for skincare is OneSkin. OneSkin formulas are powered by the OS1 peptide, a patented peptide built on longevity science proven to target aging at the cellular level. OneSkin supports the cellular repair that keeps your skin looking and feeling better as you get older. This is not about adding extra steps to your routine. No, this is about swapping in smarter ones. Born from over 10 years of longevity research, OneSkin's OS1 peptide is proven to target the cells that cause the visible signs of aging, helping you unlock your healthiest skin now and as you age. And for a limited time, OneSkin is making it even easier to stay consistent with up to 30% off your first 3 subscription orders when you use the promo code GALDI at oneskin.co/GALDI. That's oneskin.co/GALDI and use the promo code GALDI. oneskin.co/GALDI, up to 30% off with the promo code GALDI. And after your purchase, you'll be asked where you heard about OneSkin. Please support our show and say that Al Galdi sent you. Let's talk college basketball. Georgetown now has won 4 consecutive games since a 6-game losing streak. The Hoyas in the 2025-2026 regular season improved to 13-10 overall, including 5-7 in the Big East, with a 76-68 win over Creighton at Capital One Arena on Wednesday night. Georgetown at the half trailed by 2 points at 29-27. The Hoyas then won the second half 49-39. The key for Georgetown's 4-game winning streak has been the Hoyas' defense. The Hoyas held Creighton to just 8 for 33 on threes and just 10 free throw attempts, of which Creighton made just 6. Also, the Hoyas totaled 10 steals and generating 16 Creighton turnovers. Did allow Creighton to go 19 for 30 on twos, but overall, the Hoyas' defense lately has been good. Georgetown won despite its offense not being very good. The Hoyas went 8 for 21 on threes, just 14 for 42 on twos, and just 24 for 33 on free throws, and had 13 assists versus 12 turnovers. But Georgetown had 17 offensive rebounds to Creighton's 10. 56 of Georgetown's 76 points came from just three guys, KJ Lewis, Malik Mack, and Vince Iwuchukwu. 6'4" Arizona transfer KJ Lewis, he in 35 minutes, 47 seconds as a starter, had 22 points, 7 rebounds, 5 steals, and 3 assists versus 3 turnovers. He went just 1 for 5 on threes and just 4 for 11 on twos, but did go 11 for 14 on free throws. 6'2" Malik Mack, he in 30-21 as a starter, had 20 points, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 assists versus 1 turnover. He went just 2 for 6 on threes and just 2 for 4 on twos, did go 10 for 11 on free throws. And 7'1" St. John's transfer Vince Iwuchukwu, 29-42 as a starter, 14 points, 10 rebounds, including 5 offensive boards, 2 steals, and a game best plus-minus rating of plus 13. He did have 1 assist versus 3 turnovers, did go 0 for 2 on threes, just 6 for 13 on twos, and 2 for 3 on free throws. But Georgetown won despite being without 7-foot New Zealand native Julius Halaifanua for a second consecutive game. Also 6'5" Baylor transfer Langston Love did not play for a third consecutive game. Next up for Georgetown, home to Villanova, Saturday at noon. A rare loss for George Mason. It in this regular season fell to 20-3 overall, including 8-2 in the A-10. With a 71-65 loss to Duquesne at Eagle Bank Arena in Fairfax, Virginia on Wednesday night. The Patriots blew an 8-point second-half lead, committed 17 turnovers to Duquesne's 9, went just 8 for 15 on free throws. Duquesne went 16 for 21. Next up for George Mason, home to St. Joseph's Saturday afternoon at 4. And speaking of St. Joseph's, George Washington, it in this regular season fell to 13-10 overall, including 4-6 in the A-10, with a 76-73 loss at St. Joseph's on Wednesday night, despite the Colonials overcoming a 14-point first-half deficit. Third consecutive loss for GW. Next up for George Washington at Duquesne, Saturday afternoon at 2. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Friday show, episode 1255. We'll have much more on the Washington Commanders. Also on Friday's show, I'll talk Washington Capitals, Washington Wizards, and Maryland basketball. The Caps are home to the Nashville Predators Thursday night at 7. The Wizards are at the Detroit Pistons Thursday night at 7. And Maryland is home to Ohio State Thursday night at 8:30. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and I'll talk to you on Friday.
It means you're close.